Welcome to ResponseABLE Parenting, the podcast that shows you how to parent in alignment to your emotions, needs, and goals versus your programming, bad advice, and let's face it, outdated strategies that just don't work. You'll get in the trenches support on nervous system and emotional regulation, critical mindset shifts, stronger communication strategies, and more. In this podcast, you'll gain transformational tools that take you from reacting to every frustration to responding with clarity, regulation, and finally setting the example you desire for your kids. I'm Becky Jennings, your new parenting coach, and this is the ResponseABLE Parenting Podcast. Let's get into it. I've now started this podcast over 3 times because my dog, the puppy, has decided to jump up here on me, and then he decided to jump up on the couch, and he just dropped the bone, which is kind of perfect because I'm talking about the frustration of transitions today. So transitioning 3 different times to a podcast episode is pretty frustrating. All right, let's dive into it because transitions, even though they happen to us maybe 100 times a day, they still trip us up to the point where we think our kid is doing something to deliberately be mean to us or deliberately do the wrong thing. And we have all these storylines. And yet, if we were just able to figure out the trickiness of transitions, we could probably flow through the day in a lot better way. But let's define what a transition is. And it's basically, at its most simple form, is moving from one thing to a different thing, right? So waking up in the morning, your kids are in their bedroom and they come out to the kitchen for breakfast. That's a transition. Or, we are moving off the breakfast table and we're moving to go get dressed. That's a transition. At bedtime, we're moving from homework to brush our teeth, take a shower. Transition. Putting shoes on to go out the door to the car. Transition. So there are probably like 100 or more times during the day where we are in transition here with our kids, or they're having to do something all on their own. And this could be very, very challenging. I think one of the hardest parts is that we expect, because we can do it, that our children can do it too. And that is just not the case. For so many of our children, they need that little extra oomph, that little push, that support to help them get going in the transition. Most, if not all, of our children are not intrinsically motivated to do something that they don't want to do. Our kids aren't like, of course I'll turn off the TV and just go happily brush my teeth. Thanks, Mom, for the reminder. No, that's never going to be the case, right? So we have to kind of be their external motivator and guide before they learn, before it becomes habit for them, how to be intrinsically motivated to just go complete a task when it's not fun, right? We do these things all day long because we have to, because we are the thing that's keeping the wheels on the bus going round and round. They're just on the bus. So we need to teach them through modeling and through this support how to actually be able to move through a transition. Transitions are very frustrating, right? And so there's going to be a component of this that could create a power struggle, that could create meltdowns and all of the things. So I'm going to give you 3 tips, and we're going to walk through how to support yourself and make transitions just smoother in the house, because let's not lie, these are the breeding ground for power struggles, the breeding ground for our nervous system dysregulation, and it can cause a lot of just big time frustration in the house. So let's dive into it. Transitions. Number 1, as the parent who is the guide, as the parent who is the model, who is teaching all of these things to our children, teaching them how to be able to complete these things all on their own. As the very first step, you need to understand and expect the resistance to the transition. When we expect it, then we're not so thrown by it. No, we're not like, oh my gosh, what is this disrespect flying at me? Why can my child do it one day but can't do it the next day? And all the storylines that we have to go along with it. When we expect the challenge, when we expect the resistance, then we can come prepared. And when we are prepared, we're way less reactive. also, when we expect something, we can prepare for it ahead of time. So if we're like, okay, every single time that we have to go from dinner to teeth brushing, or we have to go from movie night to bedtime, it always ends in a fight. It always ends in a battle. We, as the sturdy parent, can then say, okay, as I know this to be true, because the routine has shown me this so many times, I'm going to prepare myself ahead of time with some self regulation, some grounding exercises that make me feel a sense of safety inside. So I can more easily handle the chaos that's external, not internal, and I can say to myself, yeah, this feels uncomfortable. Yeah, this is annoying. I'm not loving this right now. And I know that I'm not in danger. And I know that I'm actually safe. And I know the calmer I am through this moment, the better I'm able to handle this and the less it will escalate. So we get ahead of it by expecting it. Okay, so that's step number one. We expect the pushback, we expect the meltdown, we expect the resistance. And so we prepare internally for the chaos that is going to come at us externally. All right, number two, we practice. But we don't just practice by like jamming the lesson and yelling at our kids and telling them exactly what we expect. We're setting up this whole thing. Okay, at this time, this is going to happen. At this time, this is going to happen. At this time, this is going to happen. Okay, right? Because they're going to say, okay. And then they're going to forget. And then when the time happens, it's going to be a whole thing, as it always is. So we are practicing in a way that I like to say we're practicing off the mat, right? So we're practicing for the performance, but we're practicing off the mat. So we get to do this through games and play because our children's hearts and minds are more open to connection and learning when we do it through play. I can't remember exactly who said it, but they said it takes upwards of like 300 times in order to learn a lesson if it's done verbally. But if you do it through play, it can take 10 to 20 times. That's crazy. So what we do is we pick an obscure time, a time that wouldn't make any sense, which is already fun and playful, right? And we do the thing that we are really struggling with and we kind of gamify it. So if it's brushing our teeth, which is my number one battle in our household is brushing teeth. So I'm going to practice brushing teeth at 3 p.m. when I pick them up after school. I'm going to say, oh my gosh, it's time to brush our teeth. Let's practice. Let's see exactly what we would do so that we don't get in a fight at night. How can we make this more fun, more playful, more energizing? Can we turn it into a game? Can we have a competition? Any way we can infuse play, we can infuse a game, we can have our children maybe versus us in a competition, never against each other, because that just creates more conflict, as we know. How can we practice this and make it a really fun game? When we wire the moment with fun versus screaming versus control versus force or fear, when we can wire it with fun, love, and connection, our children are more prone to adopt it as their own and know how to do it all on their own. So let's try to figure out how we can practice on an odd time off the mat where it's hilarious that we're taking a bath at noon because we're trying to learn how to do it at night, right? Let's try to find really fun, odd times to just practice. Because when we're also practicing outside of the rush, when we're doing these things outside of a really tight time frame, which is normally when we're having a transition anyways, then there's not the stress in it. So then we're not wiring that moment with stress too. We're wiring it with just like fun, ease, and calm, which is going to help us when we get to those stressful moments so that we're like, oh, my body knows how to do this. I can move through this more quickly. So let's practice off the mat. And number three, what happens in a fire drill? We know the steps to take when we experience a fire drill, right? The kids practice it all the time in school. We have earthquake drills here too. So like, what do you do when both of you haven't been able to access your skills, haven't been able to access your regulation, and it is a full-blown fire between the two of you. Have a fire drill protocol set up for yourselves so that you can actually go, oh, wait, this is the time we employ a code word. Maybe it's fire drill, and you have to do the certain next step, right? So that could look like, you know what? We're both really angry at each other right now. This isn't going well. You go to this spot, I go to this spot. We do our respective calm down things. Or maybe that looks like you collectively decide on the fact that you are going to turn on music every single time you guys start to escalate. Once the music is on, you guys dance it out, shake it out, scream it out, do the whole thing, and then you can come back together. But there has to be, and I believe this to be true in every family, there has to be a common agreed upon fire drill protocol for when the escalation is too much and you've kind of lost the steps and now we're on fire and we have to do something to come back. Because those are always the moments that we say something or do something that we really regret and then have to come back and repair and apologize. Now, there is something to be said for the beauty of repair. Just like a muscle tear can only help strengthen a muscle, we have to tear it in order to grow it. The same is true for parenting, and the same is true for relationships. We actually grow stronger when we repair because we show the person how much we care, and we actually learn from that moment, and we say, this is how I can do it better in the future. So there is something to repair. I'm not saying never have those moments. But for the most part, it's nice to not feel like we're flailing about in these very quick escalating moments and actually have like a system to follow. So we have some code words in our house, and we have some really silly things that we do in order to kind of get ourselves like snapped out of the moment. We have what's called zebra pants, and I think I've shared this before, but if we say zebra pants, my son takes on the persona of a gorilla, and he chose for me a fat blubbering fish that can't swim very well, which is actually kind of funny. I don't always love to do that in the moment, but because we've practiced it, it's something that we can access. So we can say zebra pants, and no matter how hot and fiery we are at each other, we have to do this. And he said, or I had asked him, so what if zebra pants doesn't work and we're still too angry at each other? And he said, well, we have to move on to phase 2. And phase 2 is where we sit nose to nose. And basically, if you're nose to nose with somebody, your eyes turn into like a cyclops, and you're just like, all you can see is one eye of the person. And essentially we have to maintain eye contact, singular eye contact with each other without trying to laugh. Now, it's impossible. You will always laugh. And so that diffuses the situation. So essentially what you want to do is have a protocol of how to put out the fire. So have that fire drill, come up with it together. Maybe that's something that you guys are practicing off the mat to make it more fun, playful, and connected. Not like, we have to figure out a fire drill plan right now. It's 2025 and there is more parenting advice than ever before. Yet we're still confused, stuck, and as a result, fall back into yelling, threatening, and punishing in moments that don't require such harsh reactions. Parenting has evolved, and it's time your parenting strategies do too. Welcome to REWIRE with ResponseABLE Parenting. This is where you get the support you're looking for so you can make fast, positive, and long-term change in your household. Inside this complete parenting system, you'll get a done-for-you roadmap that teaches you how to understand why you get so triggered, how to support both yourself and your child in the heat of the moment so you can react less and respond in a way that connects you versus creates more ruptures. You will quickly create a new nervous system baseline, allowing you to access more regulated and effective communication so that you can set and hold boundaries without meltdowns, reduce power struggle nightmares, and truly dial down the temperature that spikes every day. And if you're like me, you crave instant results and personalized feedback. Now you can join REWIRE Level Up and have 6 months of weekly coaching calls. In these calls, we work together on your specific challenges and we hyperspeed your rewiring process. This means you see faster changes in your home, which means relief sooner. This is your complete program to rewire your parenting brain so that your whole family can finally exhale. Join REWIRE today and start feeling relief as early as tonight. So let's recap. A transition is something that is moving from one thing to another. For our children, they need a lot of get up and go. They need our support. They need us to not be kind of shaken up and affected by the inevitable pushback. So we are preparing. Step one, we are preparing for what is to come, which we know is going to be pushback. We know there could potentially be a meltdown. There's going to be resistance. There's going to be the invitation to join in a power struggle. And we know that, so we prepare. And we prepare by creating a sense of felt safety inside of us through nervous system work. So we do that. That is step one. We're prepared. We get it. We know it. And when it happens, we're like, duh, we knew this was coming, right? Step two, this is outside of the transition. We are preparing with systems and skills, teaching our children how to transition through play. We are teaching them the steps of what the flow needs to look like, but we're engaging it off the mat, outside the heat of the moment, where there is no rush and chaos to add to any sort of tension. And we're wiring that skill set in fun, connected play with energy that is filled with love and support. And when we do this, we wire it so much faster that they know what to do. And we are moving even faster to them doing it independently without so much need for us to help them through. And step three is we have a fire drill protocol. So when the transition isn't going well, because inevitably that will happen, that just will happen some of the time. So when it is not going well, what is our one-on-one system to put out the fire? How do we get back into a connected sense of felt safety? And how do we move through this without saying something or doing something that we regret? If you'd like to know more about nervous system reactivity and how to figure out why you react the way you react, please check out the Rewire Your Reactions video in the show notes. That is going to teach you the 4-step process to understand your reactivity and really how to change your neural rewiring. This is imperative. This is exactly how I have changed how I show up in parenting. Like, I can literally hear my brain now saying, oh, this is why you feel this way. This is what you used to do. This is what we do now. Like, I can see it now before I say anything, which is wild and so incredibly helpful because it has saved us from probably thousands of fights already this year. So definitely check out that free training. It is how you are going to set yourself up for changing any habits ever. But what I focus on is the habits that we have as parents, because that is essentially the most important stuff that we have to be focusing on right now. So check that out. And if you really love it, dive into REWIRE, and I will see you in there. Thank you for listening to the ResponseABLE Parenting Podcast. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast, I'd be honored if you'd share this episode with them. Until next time, know that you are enough, you are capable, you've made it through all of your hardest days, and we will keep growing on this parenting journey together. This podcast was produced by Kim Kelty and myself, Becky Jennings, and edited by the Kelty Method, Branding and Podcasting.